Hey there, folks. What's up, everyone? Tonight I've got a story that's going to make the hair on the back of your neck stand straight up. It's the complete legend of the Highway Lady, one of the most bone-chilling tales I've ever heard in my life. So go ahead and smash that like button to help us out, because this story deserves it, big time. Before we get started, I gotta warn y'all, this ain't just any ordinary ghost story. This is one of those tales that once you hear it, you'll never forget it. And every time you're driving alone on a dark highway at night, you're going to remember her. So buckle up, because you're about to hear not just one, but several versions of this legend that haunts highways all across America. The Highway Lady. Some folks call her the White Lady, others call her the Phantom Hitchhiker, but at the end of the day, it's all the same thing, an apparition that marks forever the lives of those who encounter her. And listen, I'm going to tell you real cases here, things that happened to real people, folks I know personally, who saw her with their own eyes.
Man, this first story came to me from Georgia at a truck stop near Macon. It was told by a veteran trucker, one of those guys who knows every curve of America's highways like the back of his hand. His name was Tony, a serious man, hard-working, family guy who had never believed in any of this supernatural stuff. It was a Tuesday morning, around 3 a.m. He was coming from Atlanta loaded with merchandise, heading to Savannah. I-16 was deserted, just him and the darkness. Light drizzle was falling, that kind of weather that makes the highway dangerous, asphalt slick as soap. Tony was taking it easy, being careful, listening to country music on the radio to fight off sleep, when suddenly, there in his headlights, he saw a woman standing on the shoulder. What the hell, he thought. A woman, alone at this hour, in the middle of nowhere. The woman was wearing a white dress, long, flowing in the wind, long dark hair loose down her back. Couldn't see her face clearly because of the distance, but she waved at the truck, asking for a ride. Tony was a good man, always helped folks in need, but something about that moment made him uneasy. His heart started racing for no reason. Still, he thought, can't leave a woman alone out here. Could be a mom needing help. He stopped the truck about 50 yards ahead, put on his hazards, and waited for her to catch up. In his rearview mirror, he saw the woman walking slowly toward the truck. But there was something strange about the way she moved. It was like she was floating. Her feet made no sound on the asphalt. When she got close to the cab, Tony rolled down his window and asked him, "Evening, ma'am. Need a ride? Where you headed?" The woman looked up at him. Man, what he saw never left his mind. It was a beautiful face, but there was something that chilled his blood. Her eyes were deep, dark, like two holes, and that smile, Lord Almighty, her smile was like she knew something he didn't. "I need to go home," she said, with a voice that seemed to come from far away, echoing. "I've been waiting so long for someone to take me home." "Where's home, ma'am?" "The cemetery in town," she replied, and that smile got even stranger. Tony felt a chill run down his spine. "Cemetery? What do you mean cemetery?" "That's where I live now, ever since I died on this highway many years ago." Man, when she said that, Tony's hair stood on end. He looked closer and saw he could see right through her. That white dress wasn't a dress at all. It was a burial shroud, and where there should have been blood in her veins, there was only a faint bluish light. Tony was a man of faith, always carried a rosary in his pocket. He pulled out the rosary and started praying quietly. The woman noticed, and the smile disappeared from her face. "Won't you take me home?" she asked, and now her voice had changed, gotten deep, scary. I gotta keep moving, ma'am. Got a deadline to meet." The woman got serious. Those dark eyes glowed with a red light. "Nobody takes me home. Nobody ever takes me home." Suddenly she vanished, disappeared just like smoke. Tony kept staring at the spot where she'd been, unable to believe what he'd seen. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel, cold sweat running down his forehead. He fired up the truck and got out of there as fast as he could. But it didn't help because when he looked in his rearview mirror, she was there, sitting in the passenger seat, looking at him with those bottomless eyes. "Why didn't you take me home?" she asked. Tony floored it, the truck screaming down the highway. He was praying out loud now, "Our Father who art in heaven," and every time he said a prayer, the woman became more transparent. When he reached the town, he stopped at the first gas station he saw and jumped out of the truck running. When he looked back, she was gone. But on the passenger seat was a wet mark, like someone soaking wet had been sitting there. From that day on, Tony never drove alone at night again. Always takes someone with him, always prays before leaving home, and every time he passes that stretch of I-16, he speeds up and doesn't look to the sides. And you know what else? He found out later that in that exact spot where he met the woman years ago, there had been an accident. A bride coming from her wedding died there. She was in the car with her husband when a truck hit him head on. She died instantly, dressed in her wedding gown. The husband survived, but went insane with grief. Since then, the highway lady appears there, asking for rides, wanting someone to take her home. But her home now was on the other side, and whoever agrees to take her, well, you'll find out in the next stories.
This second story happened right here in Georgia, on a back road that connects Valdosta to Tifton. A guy who works at a garage in that area told me, and he swears on his mother's grave that it's all true. It was a Saturday night, end of October. John and Maria, a young couple, were coming back from a wedding reception. He was about 22, she was 20. That young love, you know. The two lovebirds sitting close together in the front seat of his red Mustang. The reception had been great. They danced, laughed, had a couple sodas, because John was responsible, never drank when he was driving. They left around 11 at night, happy, talking about when their own wedding would be. The road was dark, just the yellow glow of the headlights illuminating the asphalt. Once in a while another car would pass going the opposite direction, but most of the time it was just the two of them in the world. Maria had her head resting on John's shoulder, half asleep, when he suddenly hit the brakes. "What's wrong, babe?" she asked, sitting up straight. "There's a woman up ahead." And there was, right in the middle of the road, standing there, a woman in a white dress. She wasn't on the side of the road asking for a ride. She was right in the middle of the lane with her back to them, like she was waiting. John honked lightly, thinking she'd get out of the way. But the woman didn't move. He honked again, a bit louder. Nothing. "Is she okay?" asked Maria. "Maybe she needs help." John stopped the car about 30 feet from the woman and got out, leaving the headlights on. "Stay in the car, Maria. I'll just see what happened." He walked slowly toward the woman. "Excuse me, ma'am. You all right? Do you need help?" The woman didn't answer, didn't turn around, just stood there, that white dress swaying in a breeze that didn't exist because the night was completely still. When John got closer, about 10 feet away, the woman started to turn around real slow. And when she turned completely, man, what John saw was the most beautiful face he'd ever seen in his life. Black hair, straight, long, skin white as porcelain, red lips, big dark eyes, a woman to take any man's breath away. But at the same time, something was wrong. Her eyes were beautiful, but they looked like glass, no life in them. And she was wet, like she'd just stepped out of a river. "Can you take me home?" she asked, with a sweet, musical voice. John was kind of hypnotized by that beauty. For a moment, he even forgot that Maria was in the car waiting. "Sure, I can. Where do you live, ma'am?" "It's far from here, very far.
She took a step toward him. "It's been so long since anyone offered me a ride. You're very kind." That's when Maria from the car yelled, "John, get back here! Something's wrong!" The woman looked toward the car with anger, and for a second John saw her face change. Her eyes turned red, her mouth open, showing sharp teeth, and her skin turned gray like a corpse's. But it only lasted a second. Soon she was back to being that beautiful woman from before. "Don't mind her," said the woman, moving closer to John. "She doesn't understand. You can take me home, can't you? I need so badly to go home." John felt a chill, like someone had thrown ice water on his back. Suddenly, he couldn't move, like his feet were glued to the asphalt. "John!" Maria yelled again, and this time she got out of the car. "Get away from her! Something's really wrong!" The woman turned her face to Maria, and the smile she gave was diabolical. "Your little girlfriend doesn't want you to help me. Too bad. I was starting to like you so much." That's when Maria got close and saw that the woman had no shadow. The car's headlights lit her up completely, but cast no shadow on the ground, and she was floating. Her feet didn't touch the asphalt. "John, come here now!" she shouted, pulling him by the arm. Maria's touch broke the spell. John snapped out of the trance, looked at the woman again, and saw that she was changing. The beautiful face was deforming, the skin rotting, the hair turning into snakes, the eyes becoming black holes. "You are going to take me home," she screamed, with a voice that seemed like 100 people talking at once. "Nobody leaves here without taking me home." John and Maria ran to the car. He started it and floored the gas pedal, tires squealing on the asphalt. In the rearview mirror, they saw the woman running after the car, but not running like a normal person. She was gliding across the ground at a speed that wasn't human. "Faster, John! She's coming!" The car was doing 80 miles per hour, but the woman kept up. And worse, she was growing, getting huge, with long arms that almost reached the car. That's when Maria remembered the little cross necklace she always wore. She took it off and started praying out loud, "Hail Mary, full of grace." The moment she started praying, the woman stopped chasing the car and let out a scream that made the car windows shake. When they looked back again, she was gone. They drove in silence until they reached town. They only spoke when they stopped at Maria's house. "Did you see what I saw?" asked John. "I saw it, and I'll never forget it." They got married 2 years later, but never drove that road at night again. And every time someone tells a ghost story, they look at each other and know the highway lady exists, and she's always looking for someone to take her home.
Now, this one here is heavy, folks. It's the scariest story I've ever heard about the highway lady. They told it to me in New Orleans, in a bar near the French Quarter, and the guy who told me was the same guy who lived through it. His name was Robert, a car parts salesman who traveled all over the South for work. A lonely man, divorced, no kids, who had the highway as his home and his car as his companion. It was a Thursday in August, dry season in Louisiana. Robert was coming from Shreveport, heading to Baton Rouge, on a highway he knew well. He'd made that trip hundreds of times, but that night something would be different. He was driving a white Corolla, old but well-maintained. On the radio played a romantic song, one of those that makes you remember lost love. And Robert was indeed thinking about his ex-wife, regretting having been so stubborn, wondering if there was still time to win her back. He was most distracted with these memories when he saw the woman on the side of the road. At first, he thought it was a mirage, common in the South when it gets real hot. But it wasn't hot. It was August evening, cool weather, and the woman was really there, standing under a live oak, waving at him. Robert slowed down. The woman was young, beautiful, dressed in a simple white dress,
Long hair and a ponytail, sweet smile. Looked like a teacher, a nurse, good people. He stopped the car and rolled down the window. "Evening. Need help?" "I do," she said, approaching. "My car broke down back there. Could you give me a ride to the next town? I need to get home." Robert looked in the direction she pointed and didn't see any car, but he figured it could be hidden behind the trees. And the woman seemed harmless. Plus, she was pretty. He'd been alone for so long. "Sure, hop in. Which town you headed to?" "Wherever you're going is fine," she said, opening the door and getting in the car. And that's when Robert noticed the first strange thing. When she got in the car, the temperature plummeted. Suddenly, it was cold like the AC was cranked to the max. "It's cold in here," he said, trying to make conversation. "It's perfect for me. It's been so long since I felt cold." Robert thought the phrase was strange, but didn't pay much attention. He started the car and continued the trip. The woman stayed quiet at first, just looking out the window. He tried to talk a few times, but she answered with one-word responses. After about 20 minutes of driving, she finally spoke. "Are you married?" "Was. Got divorced 2 years ago." "Did you have kids?" "No, we never had children." "What about you? Are you married?" She took a while to answer. "I was going to be. We were going to get married in the church, with a white dress and everything, like I'd always dreamed. But we never made it there." "Why not?" "Because we died on the way." Robert felt a chill. "What do you mean, died?" "There was an accident right here on this highway. I was with my fiancé in his car, coming back from the wedding rehearsal. It was a night like this, dark, quiet. Suddenly, an out-of-control semi appeared in front of us. Head-on collision. My fiancé died instantly. I was in agony for 3 hours before I died too." Robert swallowed hard. "Ma'am, are you serious?" "More serious than death, which is what I am now." He looked at her from the corner of his eye. The woman was different. Her skin had gotten paler, almost transparent, and down her arms he could see dark marks like dried blood. "Look, I think you better get out. Something's wrong here." "I can't get out," she said, and her voice had changed. It got deeper, echoing. "We haven't reached my destination yet." "What's your destination?" "The cemetery. That's where I live now." Robert hit the brakes, stopping the car on the shoulder. "Get out now! Get out of my car!" But when he looked at the passenger seat, there was nobody there. The woman had vanished. Only the smell of wilted flowers and damp earth remained. He got out of the car, looked around. Nothing. Empty highway. Complete silence. He got back in the car and got out of there as fast as possible. But it didn't help. When he got home to New Orleans and parked the car in the garage, she was there in the back seat, smiling at him in the rearview mirror. "We're here," she said. "What do you want from me?" Robert asked, his voice shaken with fear. "Company. I've been alone so long. Since I died, nobody wants to stay with me. But you're different. You're alone too, like me. We can be together forever." "I'm not dead." "Not yet," she said, and smiled, showing rotten teeth. "But you can be if you want. Just come home with me." Robert jumped out of the car and slammed the garage door. He stayed 3 days without leaving the house, barely eating, just praying and thinking about what had happened. On the 3rd day, he went back to the car. She wasn't there anymore. But on the passenger seat was a wet handprint that never came out, no matter how much he washed it. And you know what else? A week later, Robert found out in an old newspaper report that 20 years ago there really had been an accident on that highway. A bride, coming back from her wedding rehearsal, died along with her fiancé. Her name was Conception, and the photo in the paper was identical to the woman who got in his car. Since then, Robert sold the car, stopped traveling alone, and moved far away from that area. But he swears that sometimes, when he's driving at night on any highway, he sees her in the rearview mirror, waving, smiling, waiting for him to stop and give her a ride.
This story here gives me chills because it was with a whole family, innocent people who weren't doing anything wrong to anybody. It happened in Tennessee, on a highway between Nashville and Memphis. It was Mr. Charlie, Mrs. Marina, and their 2 kids, little Annie, 7 years old, and Pete, 12. A hard-working family, church-going, who took a trip every year to visit the grandparents in the country. They left Nashville in the late afternoon on a Friday after Mr. Charlie finished work. The plan was to get to Grandma and Grandpa's house before 10 at night, have dinner together, chat, that good family thing. Mrs. Marina had made some sandwiches to eat on the way. The kids were excited, telling jokes in the back seat, playing to see who could spot more cows in the pasture. Good atmosphere, happy family. When it was getting dark, around 7:30, they stopped at a gas station to fill up and use the restroom. The attendant, an old friend of Mr. Charlie's, struck up a conversation. "Traveling at night, Charlie. Be careful on that highway. Some weird stuff's been happening." "What kind of stuff, Joe?" Probably just superstitious nonsense. They say there's a woman appearing asking for rides. But it's just talk, right? Mr. Charlie laughed. "Of course it is. Thanks, Joe. See you on the way back." They continued the trip. The kids eventually fell asleep, tired from the day. Mrs. Marina dozed in the front seat. Mr. Charlie drove focused, listening to music low so as not to wake the family. That's when he saw the woman. She was standing on the side of the road, well lit by the car's headlights. White dress, long, hair loose. She wasn't asking for a ride, just standing there, looking in the direction of the car. Mr. Charlie slowed down, curious. When he passed alongside her, the woman turned her face and smiled. It was a beautiful face, but there was something disturbing about that smile. He looked in the rearview mirror and saw that she had started walking toward the car. "Marina," he whispered to his wife. "Marina, wake up." Mrs. Marina opened her eyes slowly. "What's wrong, Charlie? Are we there?" "No, but there's a strange woman on the highway. Look in the rearview mirror." Mrs. Marina turned to look. The woman was now running after the car, and no matter how much Mr. Charlie accelerated, she kept up. "Dear Lord, Charlie, what is that?" "I don't know, but we're getting out of here." Mr. Charlie floored the accelerator. The Civic went up to 75 miles per hour, but the woman kept following, running like it was the most natural thing in the world. That's when little Annie woke up and looked out the rear window. "Mommy, why is there a lady running after us?" "Don't look back, honey. Come up here with Mommy." But Annie kept looking, fascinated. "She's calling us, Mommy. She's saying something." Mrs. Marina looked again. The woman was indeed gesturing, like she wanted them to stop. "What do you think she wants?" asked Mr. Charlie, nervous. That's when Pete, the 12-year-old boy, woke up and saw the scene. "Dad, stop the car. She might need help." "I'm not stopping anything, Pete. Something's very wrong here." "But Dad, what if she's hurt? What if it's an emergency?" The conscience weighed on Mr. Charlie's mind. What if it really was a person needing help? What if they were running from someone who just wanted help? He slowed down and stopped the car on the shoulder. In the rearview mirror, he saw the woman approaching slowly. When she got close to the window, Mr. Charlie rolled it down. "Evening. Do you need something, ma'am?" The woman smiled, and Mr. Charlie noticed she was wet, like she just stepped out of a river. "I need a ride. I need to go home." "Where do you live, ma'am?" "Far from here. Very far." She looked inside the car, saw the family. What a beautiful family. Blessed children. Annie smiled back. "Thank you, lady." "Annie, don't talk to her," Mrs. Marina scolded, but the girl continued. "Where does the lady want to go? We can take you." The woman smiled at Annie, and this time Mr. Charlie saw there was something horrible in that smile. Her teeth were yellow, rotten. "I want to go to the cemetery, dear. That's where I live now." Mrs. Marina pulled Annie close. "Charlie, let's go, now." But when Mr. Charlie looked at the window again, the woman was no longer outside. She was sitting in the back seat, between the 2 kids. "How did you get in there?" shouted Mr. Charlie. "She appeared out of nowhere, Dad," Pete said, scared. The woman was different now. Her skin had turned blue. The white dress was dirty with soil, and she smelled like something rotten. "Please take me home," she said, with a voice that seemed to come from underground. "It's been so long since anyone took me home." Annie started crying. Pete tried to press against the door as far as possible from the woman. Mrs. Marina was praying out loud. "Get out of my car," shouted Mr. Charlie. "Get out now." The woman looked at him with eyes that had turned into 2 black caves. "I can't get out. We haven't reached home yet." That's when Mrs. Marina remembered the holy water she always carried in her purse. She grabbed the little bottle and threw it on the woman. The creature let out a terrible scream and disappeared in stinking smoke. The kids were crying. Mrs. Marina was shaking. Mr. Charlie could barely hold the steering wheel.
They drove straight to the hospital in the town because the kids were in shock. Only after 2 hours did they stop crying. They never traveled that highway at night again. And to this day, when someone mentions the highway lady, Annie, who's now an adult, still has nightmares. What's most impressive about this story is that the creature didn't want to hurt the kids. She even complimented them, called them blessed. But even so, her presence was so haunted, so loaded with negative energy that it almost drove the whole family insane.
This one here is different from the others, folks. It's not just a scary story. It's a story that makes us think about what's right and wrong, about what's compassion and what's fear. It happened in Texas, on the highway between Austin and San Antonio. Dr. Henry, an ER doctor who worked at the regional hospital. A good man, dedicated, one of those who chose the profession to really help people. It was a Monday, around 2 in the morning. Dr. Henry had just finished a heavy shift at the hospital, 3 emergency surgeries, 2 car accident cases. He was tired, sleepy, just wanting to get home and rest. He was driving slowly on the empty highway, thinking about the cases he'd treated that night. He always got very involved with his patients, suffered when he couldn't save someone. That's just how he was. That's when he saw the woman on the side of the road. First thing he thought was, must have been an accident. As a doctor, he always stopped to help. It was almost an instinct, stronger than any fear. The woman was kneeling on the shoulder, bent over something. Dr. Henry stopped the car and got out running, already grabbing the medical bag he always carried. "Ma'am, did something happen? Is someone hurt?" The woman looked up. She was young, beautiful, but had tears running down her face. She was dressed in white, like a nurse. "Doctor, can you help me?" she asked. My son is very sick." Dr. Henry looked at what she was holding. It was a child about 5 years old, unconscious, pale. The doctor knelt beside them, put his hand on the boy's neck to feel for a pulse. There was no pulse, and the skin was cold as ice. "Ma'am, how long has this child been like this?" "Since the accident," she replied, crying. "It's been so long I've been waiting for a doctor to appear to save my son." Dr. Henry looked closer at the boy. No visible injuries, but something was very wrong. The skin had a bluish color, and there was a strange smell, like wilted flowers. "Ma'am, I need to get him to the hospital immediately. Come on, help me get him in the car." But when he went to pick up the child, he was stiff, rigid, and he weighed much more than a child that size should weigh. "Ma'am, this child, he's dead," completed the woman. "Yes, doctor. My son has been dead for 20 years. Dr. Henry looked at her startled. The woman wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling, but it was a sad, desperate smile. "Since then, every night, I bring him here, waiting for a doctor to pass by, waiting for someone who can save him. But nobody ever can. He remains dead, and I remain a mother who couldn't protect her son." The doctor looked at the child in the woman's arms. Even though he knew it was impossible, even though she'd been dead for years, his medical instinct spoke louder. "Let me try," he said. "Even if it's impossible, let me try." The woman smiled, this time a real smile, full of gratitude. "You would do that, even knowing it won't help?" "I'm a doctor," replied Dr. Henry. "I took an oath. As long as there's a chance, however small, I have to try." He took the child in his arms and carried him to the car. He laid him on the back seat and began resuscitation procedures. CPR, artificial respiration, everything he could do without hospital equipment. The woman stood beside, watching, waiting, and for the first time in 20 years, there was hope in her eyes. Dr. Henry worked for more than an hour. He was sweating, struggling, trying everything he knew. But it really was impossible. The child remained dead. Finally, exhausted, he stopped. He looked at the woman with tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry. I tried everything I could. I couldn't save him." The woman approached and put her hand on his shoulder. The hand was cold, but the gesture was caring. "I know, doctor, but you tried. For the first time in 20 years, a doctor tried to save my son. That means a lot to me." She took the child in her arms again. "Now I can rest in peace. I can take my son home, knowing that at least one doctor cared." Dr. Henry looked at her. "Where are you going now?" "Where we should have gone long ago. Home." She smiled. "Thank you, doctor. You have a good heart." And so, before his eyes, mother and child disappeared like smoke. They didn't vanish suddenly. They dissolved slowly, like mist when the sun rises. Dr. Henry stood there for a long time, thinking about what had happened. When he got home, he told his wife everything. She didn't quite believe it, but saw that he was different, more thoughtful. The next day, Dr. Henry researched in old newspapers and found the news. 20 years ago, a mother and son had died on that highway. She was taking the boy to the hospital when the accident happened. The boy died on the spot, the mother 3 hours later. From that day on, Dr. Henry never passed that highway without stopping to say a prayer. And whenever he treated a child at the hospital, he remembered the boy he couldn't save, the mother who waited 20 years for a doctor who cared. This story touches me because it shows that the highway lady isn't always there to scare people. Sometimes she's just looking for someone who cares, someone who'll try to help even though it's impossible.
Man, this one here is one of the most famous. It happens with bus drivers all over America. They told me this specific version in Alabama, but I'm sure y'all have heard variations of it in other regions. It was Mr. Manuel, an experienced driver for Greyhound who did the route between Birmingham and Montgomery. A serious man, hard-working, who took his job as a mission. Always said that transporting people was transporting lives, families, dreams. He took that to heart. That night was a Tuesday in March, rainy season in Alabama. The bus was full. 42 passengers heading home after a long weekend. There were families with kids, students, workers, good folks, simple people. Mr. Manuel knew that highway like the back of his hand. He'd made that trip thousands of times, knew every curve, every speed bump, every gas station. Drove safely, always respecting speed limits, always thinking about his passengers' lives. It was around 11 at night when he saw the woman. She was standing at a bus stop in a small town along the way, a stop that normally had no activity at that hour, but there she was, waiting. Mr. Manuel slowed down and stopped. It was a young woman dressed in white with a small suitcase in her hand. Looked like a nurse or a teacher, working folks like the other passengers. "Evening," she said, getting on the bus. "How much to Montgomery?" $15, replied Mr. Manuel. She paid exactly, took her change, and went to sit on an empty seat in the middle of the bus. Didn't seem strange to anyone, just another passenger heading home. The bus continued the trip. The woman stayed quiet, looking out the window. Some passengers were dozing, others talking quietly so as not to bother anyone. Normal atmosphere for a night trip. It was after an hour of driving that Mr. Manuel started to notice something strange. The bus was getting very cold. He looked at the air conditioning gauge, but it was normal. Still, the temperature kept dropping. Some passengers started complaining. "Driver, can you turn down the AC? It's freezing back here." Mr. Manuel turned the air down, but the cold continued. And there was a strange smell on the bus, too. Smell of wilted flowers, of old things. That's when a passenger,
A lady sitting near the woman in white called out, "Driver! Driver, stop the bus!" Mr. Manuel pulled over to the shoulder. "What's wrong, ma'am?" "It's the woman next to me. She's very strange." Mr. Manuel got up from his seat and went to see what was happening. When he got close to the woman in white, he got a shock. She was pale as paper, her lips purple from cold, and she was wet, like she'd fallen in the rain. But it wasn't raining. "Ma'am, are you all right?" asked Mr. Manuel. The woman looked up at him. Her eyes were deep, dark, lifeless. "I'm fine," she said, with a voice that seemed to come from far away. "I just want to get home." "Where are you getting off, ma'am?" "At Oakwood Cemetery. That's where I live now." A chill ran through the entire bus. Some passengers crossed themselves, others moved seats, getting away from the woman. Mr. Manuel swallowed hard. "Ma'am, cemeteries aren't places to live." "For me it is," she said, and smiled. And when she smiled, Mr. Manuel saw that her teeth were rotten, yellow. "Ever since I died, that's where I live." That's when the panic started. A child began crying. A lady fainted. The passengers crowded toward the front of the bus, away from the woman. "Driver, she ain't human," someone shouted. "Get her out of here." Mr. Manuel, even though scared, tried to stay calm. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to get off." "I can't get off. We haven't reached the cemetery yet." "But I'm not going past any cemetery." The woman got serious. Her eyes changed color, turned red. "Yes, you are. You're going to take me home." Suddenly, the bus started moving on its own. Mr. Manuel wasn't driving, but the vehicle was moving down the highway like it had its mind of its own. The passengers were screaming, crying, praying. The woman stood up and started walking toward the front of the bus. "Don't be afraid. I just want to go home. It's been so long since anyone took me home." That's when one of the passengers, a very religious lady, started praying the rosary out loud. Other passengers joined in. Soon the whole bus was praying together. "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee." With each Hail Mary, the woman became more transparent, and the bus started coming back under Mr. Manuel's control. "Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus." When they finished the rosary, the woman had completely disappeared. Only the smell of wilted flowers remained and a wet mark on the seat where she'd been sitting. Mr. Manuel stopped the bus, got out, and threw up on the shoulder. He was shaking, sweating cold. The passengers were also shaken, but thank God for getting rid of that ghost. The rest of the trip was in silence, just quiet prayers. When they reached Montgomery, Mr. Manuel went straight to church to thank God for being alive. The next day, he learned from other drivers that it wasn't the first time that had happened. The highway lady had already appeared on several buses, always asking to go to the cemetery, always disappearing when folks prayed. Mr. Manuel kept driving for 10 more years, but never forgot that night. And whenever he passed that stop where she got on, he'd make the sign of cross and ask for protection.
Now comes the strangest story of all, folks. This one here doesn't end with the woman disappearing. It ends in a way that nobody can explain to this day. It happened with a friend of my cousin's down in Louisiana Bayou country. His name was Joshua, a guy about 25, single, who worked on a cattle ranch. He was known as a brave man who wasn't afraid of anything or anyone. It was a Friday in June during Mardi Gras season in the city. Joshua had gone to the festival, danced all night, had a few beers, talked to the ladies, left there around 1 in the morning, feeling good, but not drunk. He knew his limits. His motorcycle, a red Harley, was parked in the town square. He put on his helmet and headed to the ranch, which was about 15 miles from town. Dirt road, dusty, that he knew like the back of his hand. It was a clear night, moonlight lighting the road like daylight.
Joshua was riding easy, thinking about the festival, the girls he'd met, humming some Zydeco tunes. That's when he saw the woman standing on the side of the road. She was wearing a long white dress, hair loose in the wind, but she wasn't asking for a ride. She was just standing there, looking in his direction. Joshua slowed down. Brave as he was, that sight made him uneasy. A woman alone, in the middle of nowhere, in the dead of night. When he passed alongside her, she smiled and waved. She was a beautiful woman, about 30, with an angelic face. Joshua stopped the bike. "Evening, you all right? Need help?" "I do," she replied, approaching. "I need a ride." "Where you headed?" "Wherever you're going." Joshua hesitated. Something about that answer wasn't right. "I'm going to Old Pete's ranch. It's way out there." "That's perfect," she said, smiling. "Can I come with you?" As strange as it seemed, Joshua couldn't refuse. There was something about that woman that attracted him, a hypnotic beauty. "Sure thing. Hop on back." The woman got on behind him. Joshua felt she was cold as ice. "You cold?" "I'm always cold. I've been cold for so long." Joshua started the bike and continued the trip. The woman hugged him from behind, rested her head on his shoulder. The contact was cold, but at the same time comforting. "What's your name?" asked Joshua. "Conception. What's yours?" "Joshua." "How long were you waiting for a ride back there?" "A long time. Years and years." They talked during the whole trip. Conception told him she'd been a teacher in town, that she'd never married, that she lived alone. She spoke with a sweet, melancholic voice that made Joshua feel a strange pity for her. When they reached the ranch, Joshua parked the bike near the house where he lived. "We're here. Where you want to go now?" "Can I stay here with you?" she asked. "I have nowhere to go." Joshua looked at her. Under the moonlight, she seemed even more beautiful. "Sure, I got a guest room. You can sleep there." They went into the house. Joshua made tea for her, prepared the guest room with clean sheets. Conception thanked him with a smile that melted his heart. "Thank you so much, Joshua. You're very kind. It's been so long since anyone was kind to me." "Don't mention it. Tomorrow you can decide what to do." They went to sleep. Joshua took a while to fall asleep, thinking about the mysterious woman he'd brought home. There was something different about her, something that stirred him in a strange way. In the morning, when he woke up, he went to check on her. He knocked on the door. "Conception, you awake? I'm making coffee." No answer. He opened the door slowly. The room was empty. The bed hadn't been slept in. It was like nobody had ever been there. Joshua searched the whole house, the yard, the fields. Conception had vanished without a trace. The only thing he found was a wet mark on the living room floor where she'd stepped the night before. He was intrigued, but figured she'd left during the night. He spent the day working, but couldn't get her out of his head. That evening, he was having dinner when he heard a knock at the door. He opened it, and there was Conception, smiling. "Hi, Joshua. Can I come in?" "Of course. Where you been? I looked for you all morning." "I had to take care of some things," she said, entering the house. "But I came back. Can I stay here with you?" And so began the strangest relationship of Joshua's life. Conception would appear every night at his house. They'd have dinner together, talk, sometimes watch TV, but in the morning she was always gone, never there when he woke up. This went on for a month. Joshua grew more attached to her each day. She was good company, an intelligent, caring woman. He started dreaming of marrying her, having kids, starting a family. But there were strange things, too. Conception never ate. She'd pretend to eat, move the food around on her plate, but Joshua never saw her swallow anything. And she was always cold, even on the hottest days. One night, Joshua decided to ask, "Conception, Why don't you never stay here during the day? Why do you always leave before dawn?" She stayed quiet for a long time, looking at her hands. "Do you really want to know?" "I do. Because I can't stay. The sun burns me, makes me disappear. I can only exist in darkness." "What do you mean?" Conception sighed. "Joshua, I died 10 years ago on this road, hit by a truck when I was coming back from town. Since then, I appear every night looking for someone who wants to stay with me." Joshua swallowed hard. "You're serious?" "Completely. You're the first one who accepts me, who doesn't run away when he finds out the truth. But you seem so real." "To you I am real, because you believe in me." Joshua looked into her eyes. Even knowing she was dead, even knowing it was impossible, he loved her. "And now what happens?" "That depends on you," said Conception. "You can send me away and never see me again, or you can accept that our story is different from all the others." "I accept," Joshua said without hesitation. "I don't care if you're dead or alive. I love you." And so, man, Joshua went on living an impossible love. Every evening at nightfall, Conception would appear. They'd have dinner together, talk, embrace. Before dawn, she'd leave. The folks at the ranch thought it was strange that Joshua never went out at night anymore, never went to the festivals in town, but he was happy in a way he'd never been before. This lasted for 2 years, until one morning Joshua didn't wake up. The ranch hands found him in bed with a smile on his face, looking peaceful. He died during his sleep. No illness, no suffering. And you know what else? Since then, on full moon nights, folks swear they see 2 figures on the road, a man and a woman, on a motorcycle, going back and forth, like they're on an eternal journey. They say Joshua chose to stay with Conception on the other side, that he preferred death with her to life without her. I don't know if it's true or not, but whenever I pass that road at night, I speed up a little bit and don't look to the sides, because there are loves that are stronger than death itself.
Man, we've reached the end of these highway lady stories. 7 different cases, 7 encounters with this apparition that haunts highways all across America. But did y'all notice something? In all these stories, the highway lady wasn't exactly evil. She didn't want to hurt people. What she wanted was simple, human, to go home, to have company, to be remembered. Think about it. How many people die alone on highways every year? How many families are destroyed by accidents? How many dreams are cut short in the middle of a journey? The highway lady represents all these people. She's the soul of those who left before their time, who couldn't say goodbye, who got lost between this world and the next. And look how interesting. In most stories, she disappears when people pray, when they show faith. That's no coincidence. It's because prayer, faith, represents love, light, connection with the divine, and that's what these lost souls need most. But there's one thing that marks all these stories: loneliness. The highway lady always appears to people who are alone, traveling alone. It's like she's drawn to others' loneliness because she herself is infinitely lonely. This makes me think, how many times do we pass by someone who needs help and pretend we don't see? How many times do we choose the comfort of our locked car instead of stopping to help a stranger? Of course, nowadays it's dangerous to stop for just anyone on the highway. But there are other ways to help, right? A prayer for those who are lost, a positive thought for those who need direction. And you know what else these stories teach? That not everything that seems scary is evil. Sometimes, behind the fear, there's just someone who needs compassion. The highway lady didn't choose to be a ghost. She became that because she got trapped between 2 worlds, because she couldn't find peace, because nobody helped her go home when she needed it most.
How many times in our lives do we meet people who are like the highway lady? Not literally dead, but dead inside. People who are lost, alone, needing someone to stop, to listen, to offer a ride home, even if that home is just a smile, a kind word. So next time y'all are driving at night and see a shadow on the side of the road, before you speed up in fear, say a prayer. Not for the person you saw, they might not even exist anymore, but for the lost souls still wandering out there, looking for the way home. And if one day y'all really do meet the highway lady, remember, she doesn't want to hurt you. She just wants to go home. And sometimes home isn't the physical place. Sometimes home is peace, it's rest, it's knowing that someone cares. Maybe the real lesson of the highway lady isn't about ghosts or hauntings. Maybe it's about compassion, about not letting anyone die alone, about helping people find their way home, wherever that home might be. And with that thought, folks, we've reached the end of our journey through the highway lady stories. I hope you all enjoyed it, that you got a little spooked, but mainly that you thought about what these stories really mean. If you all know any highway lady cases, any similar stories that happened in your family or in your area, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. And always remember, on life's highways, we're all travelers, and sometimes we all need a ride home. Until next time, folks, and drive carefully, especially at night.